Okay, planning a guest post strategy. This is where the real fun begins. Let's begin this lesson with a quick introduction to the off-page planner. Okay, let's now take a look at the off-page planner. This is a simple download that's available in the resources section. This is provided in order to help you have a central point of reference for all of your link building, off-page and link building efforts. Because as you know, you start onboarding more clients, especially anything to do with off-page guest posting and link building can get tremendously busy and awfully messy very, very quickly if you don't keep everything organized. So be sure to use this resource in order to do that. Okay, having said that, I'm now going to take you through a quick walkthrough of each of the columns, what they represent, how to fill them out, and so forth. Let's start with status. This is fairly self-explanatory. This is a status for each of the entries within the sheet itself: completed, underway, cancelled. The publication date, this is the date of which the actual guest post was published on site and went live. Next is the cost. This is what you paid for the actual link. The transaction ID, again, I would strongly recommend that you use PayPal. It's just easier. Using PayPal, you will get a transaction ID. Make sure that you copy the transaction ID once you've made payment and paste it into this column here. This will prevent any sort of back and forth between, site owners and your team getting caught up in, this hasn't been paid for, has it been paid for? Your off-page team can simply jump straight back in here and look at the transaction ID and provide that back to the site owner without anyone else getting involved. The invoice, if the site owner provides you with a link, the PayPal link, sometimes they do this. Sometimes they'll just email you and say, make payment into this email. You can do that, but sometimes they'll provide you with a Pay Now link within PayPal. If you do get one of those, it's worthwhile publishing that into this column here. Domain authority, of course, you want to enter in the domain authority of the site that you're publishing on. The page authority, you won't always get page authority right away, not until at least the guest post is actually published. The monthly traffic for the site of which it was posted on, the link status. I've set this Google Sheet up so that it will automatically monitor the status of that link ongoing. So you don't need to do any manual checks. There's nothing worse than having to once a month cycle back and check all of the links manually using tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush. This Google Sheet will do that for you. Now, the referring page, this of course is the page of which you got the guest post on. Okay, so the site that's actually published the guest post for you. The target page, this is the client site. So the URL where you've driven that link to. The next column is anchor, and this is the anchor that you've used within the guest post. The guide anchor, I'll be demonstrating how this all works in just a minute once we start populating the sheet. But the guide anchor, this is where we do our reverse engineering and we pre-populate this column using guide anchors that we can choose from in order to diversify our anchor text. And that'll all make much more sense in just a minute. The article title, I always like to take the article title and just paste it in here just for point of reference. And the last column, notes. This is where you can just share notes in and amongst your team. Okay, the other thing that may be worth mentioning, and sometimes we did this, sometimes we didn't, but sometimes we would enter in the job or a link straight to the job within our project management software. We didn't always do that. Sometimes it wasn't required, but if we found there's a lot of back and forth conversations within team members, you can always take a link from whether using something like Notion or Asana or ClickUp or Monday and post a direct link into the notes there within that column. So that's pretty much it. As you can see, it's very self-explanatory. There's nothing in here that's difficult. I would again remind you of the importance of using this sheet and sharing it with all of your team members so you can all stay, you can all make sure that you stay on the same page and your efforts are coordinated. Now, before we get started using the off-page planner, or at least in order to set the foundations, we need to populate the off-page planner by auditing, or at least taking a look at the existing links pointing to our target page. So as I just said before beginning the process, it's essential to audit what's already in place, as this will help guide the overall strategy. Okay, now you want to audit first, obviously, build second. Outreach should only begin once existing links are confirmed and documented within the off-page planner. So don't just jump straight into building links and performing, the guest post process and performing outreach and creating content and doing all of that other stuff. You need to take a look at what links are actually pointing to the page before you start the process. Now, in terms of performing that audit and taking a look at the links that are actually pointing to the target page, we want to confirm that the data that we're seeing is actually accurate and correct. And we can use SEO tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush to do that. Now, firstly, we'll need to check the obvious thing, right? Are the articles, or at least the content or pages that are pointing to the target page, are they still live? Are these pages still active? Likewise with links, are the links still active? Are they still pointing to the correct URL? Are they no follow or do follow? We need to take all of this information, gather it up and put it into the off-page planner. The anchors, what are the anchors? What are the anchors being used? Have they changed and are they still the same? And of course, page authority. What sort of page authority do we see? Is there any page authority or has it gone to zero? Likewise, if there are any existing guest posts, are they still indexed? And is the site still functioning? Has it been abandoned? Has it been repurposed or hacked? A lot of times, especially for older, more mature links, you'll find that you go back several years, the pages are either gone, the links don't exist anymore. So don't make the mistake of just looking at the data within Ahrefs or SEMrush and taking note of all of the links. You've got to actually go through and check links to the page before you start populating the off-page planner. Again, we want accuracy because this will help drive or at least determine the actions that we take in terms of moving forward. Okay, so let's now perform the link audit to this particular URL. This process is very straightforward. There's nothing complex about it at all. However, it is quite important that you do this because you don't want to, as I said, you don't want to just jump in and start building links and mapping out anchors without at least taking a look to see what's actually there. So in order to do this, very straightforward, all we're going to do is we're going to copy the URL. I'm going to use Ahrefs in order to do this. And I'm going to take a look at the exact URL. And we're going to take a look at backlinks pointing to the page. Let's see here. So backlinks. And as we can see, we do have one. It looks like it's definitely pointing to the correct page. Looks like the anchor text being used is traffic control course, which is to be expected. And it's coming from TradingLink. So let's take a look and see if this article firstly is still here and as to whether or not the link is still active. So I'll share a quick tool with you real quick that saves a tremendous amount of time when it comes to finding links on a page and more importantly, trying to determine as to whether or not they're no follow or do follow. If you make your way through to the Google Chrome Web Store and search for no follow, this particular tool by igorware.com, this is a fantastic extension. It shows no follow and do follow links directly within the browser and how that essentially looks once you turn it on. Like I've got it enabled here. I will turn it on and you'll see all of the links on this page that have that green border are all active links and they do follow. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is the anchor text that was used in this case was traffic control course. Right, so I'm going to go back and there it is there. Right, so it's definitely pointing to the correct page. I can mouse over, I can see down the bottom left hand side, I can see that it's pointing to upskills queensland.com.au/courses, traffic control full, and if we follow that link, we should end up on the right page. Okay, so that's a good sign. The link is still active. It's a do follow link, which is even better. So that checks out. Now, in order to, now that we have that information, we're going to take that information and we're going to enter it into our off-page planner. So we'll disable that firstly. We will go back and we'll copy the URL. Now you'll see that there'll be some information in here that we just won't have, okay? Because obviously we didn't We weren't involved in the guest posting process or the link building process. So there's definitely going to be some information in here that we don't have. We will, however, do our best in order to maybe get some understanding of what's going on. So it looks like this piece of content was published August 9 because there is a publication date, which is fantastic. So we will put in the date, August 9, 2023. Okay, great. Don't know how much it costs. We don't have the transaction ID, obviously. The domain authority for this particular site, let's take a look. We'll use SERPworks again to take a look at the numbers. Okay, so domain authority is 12. Domain authority is 12. The page authority, let's take a look. What's the page authority for this? Page authority is 14. Okay, great. We'll put that in. Monthly traffic. We can come back and take a look at that in just a minute. We know the link status is good. The referring page is this one from TradingLink, and the target page is obviously this one here to the client site. Great, we got that. We'll enter that in. Now the anchor that was used was traffic control course. Okay, so traffic control course. Okay, great. All right. Now the guide anchors, article title. What's the article title here? We can grab that while we're here. Okay, great. So just to remove some of that formatting there, I might just dump that into Notepad, paste that in. Okay, great. So notes here, we can leave that blank. I think we've got everything that we need. We could, if we wanted to, we could come back and take a look at the monthly traffic. In fact, let's take a quick look and see. So let's take a look at, we'll go back to the root domain for this. So TradingLink, we'll go back. We'll see what sort of traffic this site is getting. So we'll go to overview. And doesn't appear to be getting a great deal of traffic. So not quite sure if this is accurate or not, but perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. So I'm not seeing any traffic at all here. We're looking in Australia. Let's try all locations and see if that changes. Okay, so Ahrefs isn't actually reporting any traffic for this site at all. If you find yourself in this position, I probably wouldn't lose too much sleep about it. This is not something that I would disavow or ignore. It appears, at least at a quick glance, it appears to be a decent looking site. So it doesn't look to be, you know, a Chinese farmer site, porn, or anything else that looks suspicious. So I would probably let this one go through. You will, however, having said that, you will have to use a bit of common sense here, guys, to make the decision as to whether or not you actually want to include these URLs or not. Okay, now I don't want to get down into the whole start disavowing links and everything else, but you will have to use a little bit of common sense here. You will almost always, when it comes to working with some sites, especially those that have been worked on by low quality service providers, you'll see all sorts of nonsense back here. So worst case scenario, you do come across a whole bunch of stuff in here that you don't like the look of, and perhaps there is signs of over optimization in that they're using the same anchor over and over and over again. You may want to consider disavowing some of those links, but in almost all cases that won't be necessary. Okay, but it's really a case, you really have to use gut instinct, apply some common sense, and work each site that you work on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so that's essentially how you go about auditing the sites to make sure that the links, or does the page actually have any links? What do those links look like? Capture all of the information, or at least the information that's available to you, and populate the off-page planner. Okay, once you've performed the audit and you've pre-populated the off-page planner with the existing links pointing to the target page, we need to start mapping out our off-page strategy. And this is where we get into the whole reverse engineering and anchor text strategy, which I'll jump into now and take you through. Okay, so let's start mapping out our guest post strategy. There's a couple of things that we need to be mindful of here. The main priority or objective is to firstly determine roughly how many guest posts we might need in order to compete. So this is definitely something that you should have already assessed and have some idea of. If you've applied the brute force keyword research strategy, chances are the page that you've tested might be first or second page or somewhere at least close to first position anyway. So the amount of work involved, at least hopefully, will be fairly minimal. In any case, you still have to map out your anchors, right? And this is essentially what we want to do, because instead of just guessing and doing work sort of all over the place, random acts of, links and anchors and articles and guest posts flying around all over the place, we want to be able to plan this out in advance, right? So that we can look at the off-page planner and say, right, okay, what type of content are we creating next billing cycle or next month, and which anchors are we going to use? And more importantly, what anchors have we already used? Okay, now, if you haven't been doing this in the past, you'll know that things can get really messy, and you'll have anchor text all over the place. You'll have absolutely no idea which anchors are being used, and it can become almost impossible to manage. So all we're going to do here, the next steps are, we're going to perform the steps in order to ensure that we've got a clear path forward in terms of, like I said, mapping out our anchors and, preparing ourselves for next steps. So in order to do this, I'm going to go back to the search results, and all we're going to do, and I've typed in the keyword of interest here, traffic control course, right? We've got a list here. Now, let's take a look real quick and see where we're actually ranked for this term. So I'm going to grab the URL here, so upskillsqueensland.com.au, and just out of interest, I'm going to see how far back we are, right? Okay, so we're not on the first page. Let's keep going. Not on the second page. I haven't looked at this, so I really have no idea where they are. Not on the third page. Not on the fourth page. Okay, let's keep going. Wow, okay, so they're a fair way back here. Hopefully I haven't mistyped that URL. Okay, there they are here. Okay, so they're a fair way back. They're in position 8 here, so they're definitely not going to be getting any traffic for that particular term, which is fine, and that's why we do this, right? Because we want to try and push this up, because this particular term that I've looked at, I've actually looked this up in keyword.com, which I'll get into in just a minute. This particular term has, I think, 2,500 searches per month. So it's actually a term that's worth going for, right? And this is something else you need to be mindful of. Now, that's not to say that search terms with less traffic aren't worth going for, but this is certainly one that fits the service offering that the client, in this case, wants to target. Okay, so they're miles back. They're back on top of page 8 for traffic control course. Right, so let's now go back to first page. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work my way through all of the URLs on the first page, and maybe halfway down the second page, I'm going to capture all of the URLs that are ranking first and maybe second page, like I said, for this particular term. I'm going to dump them all into a Notepad file. Right, so let's do that. Now, one thing that I will say, as I'm working my way through this, and these are a couple of points that are worth noting. Anytime I see a local business directory or a home page, I'll usually always skip over that. Okay, so what do I mean by that? What I'm looking for here is I'm looking for pages that have been built out with intention. In other words, I'm looking for pages that have been built specifically to rank for this particular term or keyword, right? Now, you will find for some keywords, you'll browse through and you'll look and there'll be like, that's a home page, that's a home page, that's a home page. I'm not interested in those. And you might be thinking, well, why not, John? Because we're looking for anchors here, right? We're looking we want to map out and plan our anchor text strategy, right? Because we want to firstly optimize the page, and then we want to push links back to that page, relevant links, using a range of relevant links, using more importantly diverse, like with anchor text diversity, right? So that's essentially what we're doing here. Now you will find that if we were just pulling down sites and reverse engineering them through Ahrefs, and we were grabbing the home page, well, they're going to have all sorts of anchors pointing to the page. They're going to have brand, they're going to have locations, they're going to have service, products, all sorts of things, right? We don't want that. We only want to target pages that have been built out specifically for this particular term, right? So you'll see that some of the URLs are already captured, right? This one here is a great example. Licenses for work.com.au / traffic control, right? That tells me, that's a great indication that this particular page, the webmaster or the SEO agency or whoever it is, has built this page with intent, because they're trying to target either traffic control course or some variation of it. That's perfect. Okay, but we wouldn't reverse engineer this, because they'll have, like I said, they'll have brand anchors, they'll have product anchors, they'll have locations, service anchors. It'll be an absolute mixed bag, right? We don't want that. We only want to target, we want to tighten up our targeting and our focus just in and around pages that have been built specifically for this term. Okay, let's keep going through. So here's another great one. This one is / traffic control. We can see here, course category, traffic control. That's great. And like I said, you should always take a quick look over the pages to see what sort of content might be on those pages. All right, so we'll open the rest of these. So put simply, I want to try and avoid things like the map pack. I'm not interested in looking at the map pack. I'm not interested in looking at like business directories where it's like the 10 best traffic control courses, because you're just going to have a variety of sites listed. I'm not really interested in like, anything else that isn't necessarily a web page, right? I want to look for web pages that have been built with intent. Now, sometimes there'll be exceptions to the rule. You'll see all sorts of weird stuff. I don't go anywhere near forums or Reddit or anything else. Again, like I said, I would skip the map pack, and also don't bother with ads, right? So that's all of them, at least from the front page. And we can see here, looking at these URLs are really great, okay? Because I can see clearly that these URLs have been built specifically for that term. Traffic control course, traffic controller course Sydney, traffic control courses. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, this first one here from the Queensland, New South Wales government website is quite long, but we'll grab that anyway. Okay, and hopefully you'll see just how easy this process is. Now, if the first page is stacked with Reddit and home pages and business directories and everything else, well then just roll over to the second page. Okay, go to the second page. All right, there's a great example. This is a home page. I'm not interested in that because there'll be all sorts of anchors there. What's the next one? Traffic controller and implement. Traffic controller plans. Okay, so we'll grab that one just out of interest, and we'll take a look. There's really no limit to how many you can reverse engineer here. Usually I just do the first page and maybe part way down the second page, and that will usually give you enough. Okay, you can also you can go further than that if you really want to. It depends how much data you get out of this. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, so that's a home page. So actually we'll just leave it at that. Actually, we'll do one more. This one looks good. Traffic control courses. Okay, so that one's great. All right, so we've got a whole bunch here now. So all we're going to do now is we're going to gather up all of the URLs that we've picked out of search, and we're going to make our way over to Ahrefs, right? Right, now all I'm going to do is I'm going to paste them in each one at a time. I'm going to go to the exact URL, and I'm going to search, and I've actually done this ahead of time, and I've gone down to anchors here under backlink profile, anchors. Right, now we can see that we've got a great variety of anchors here, right? This saves the whole, the whole reason we're doing this is so that it eliminates the guesswork. And we're not sitting here trying to think, okay, what anchors should we use and trying to, come up with anchors off the top of our head. We want to essentially replicate what's already working, okay? These pages aren't on first page by accident. They're there for a reason. And chances are it's a number of combined signals on page, page engagement, referring domains, and the types of the anchors that are pointing to those pages. In any case, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export this into a CSV, and I'm going to grab this out, and I'm just going to grab the anchors. I'm going to grab that out of there. Actually, let's leave that there for a minute. I'll do it all in one hit. It's probably going to be easier. Next one down is licenses for work, traffic control. Okay, that's great. Let's do the same thing again. Exact URL. Traffic control certificate. Okay, let's take it. It's only one, but we want that. Traffic control certificate, and I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to put it in here. Close that. So I'm going to go again. I'm going to grab the next URL back into Ahrefs, and I'm going to do another one. Okay, so no anchors pointing to that one, which is that's a bit strange. Okay, that's fine. Let's move on to the next one. Doesn't matter. No links, rather. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. Okay, so this one has quite a few. I can't remember where this one was. This one was in position 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this one was in position 4. I think it had something like 98 referring domains. And as you can see, there's a really wide variety of anchors being used here, which is fantastic. Okay, great. Someone's done the work for us. Let's export those down into a CSV file, and we'll grab these. Grab these out of here, and we'll dump them into our parent sheet. Close that. No, we don't want to save. And we're just going to repeat this process, guys. So what I might do is I will just go through and do a few more of these. I'll pause the video real quick, and once I've gathered all of these anchors down, I'll come back and I'll show you how to upload them into the off-page planner. Okay, so I haven't done all of them, admittedly. I think you get the gist of what I was actually doing there. It's fairly straightforward. But now that I have all of these anchors, I've got a great collection of data here for potential anchors that we could use within our guest post, pointing back to the target page. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab these from the CSV file, and I'm going to go back to our Google Sheet, and I'm going to paste these anchors into our guide anchor column, right, which is this one here. Okay, now what I normally do is I usually go down a little bit just to give myself a bit of room here, so that when we're mapping out our guest posts for each billing cycle or per month, I've got a little bit of room here to make a selection from the list and then move them up. I'll show you what a couple of heavily populated off-page planners look like in just a minute, so that you can see what it looks like over time. But essentially what I would be doing, the next steps, essentially what I would be doing would simply be this. I'd be now working through and taking a look at some of the anchors and picking some good ones and saying, okay, well, these ones look pretty good. This is obviously relevant. Let's use some of these. So it's really this easy, guys. So I might be taking a look at, we're currently using traffic control course. So I might use something like, okay, so remember, we want to use the 80-20 rule. We want to diversify. And for most of the campaigns I worked on, we did at least a minimum of 5 guest posts per billing cycle. So, if that's the case, then we would start from the one that we already have. So might use something like this, traffic controller training course, and I might just tidy this up a bit. So traffic controller training course, traffic management course. I like that one. That one's good. That one's good. Let's see here. Traffic controller would be maybe another good one. Now remember, we want to diversify, so need to be mindful of the anchors that we choose and make sure that we change it up. So I've got traffic controller training course, traffic management course, traffic controller. So the next one I'd probably change this up a little bit and look for something like maybe licensing or certifications or something that's a little bit different, because I don't want to go too heavy on traffic controller and course. So traffic control duties, traffic controller, traffic control ticket, that's a good one. Traffic control ticket. Traffic control license is also another one. Traffic controller classes. You can see just how much variety and the inspiration that you get from reverse engineering competitors. So there's some really good ones here. Maybe I might choose. So you could say, and obviously there's some good long tail stuff in here as well, right? So this one here, get qualified traffic. Actually, I might use that one. Traffic controller in course in Sydney. So this one here contains a brand, which is interesting. I might take a close look at that. So this one here, these guys are called Upskills Queensland. So this might make for a good brand. So what I might do here is just change that, Upskills Queensland, and just change it up. And this is what you'll do, right? If you find brand terms, just change the brand to suit your client's brand. Traffic controller. I might change this here to certification. Okay, great. So we've got 4. Let's grab one more. And I don't know. Let's just use here. Click. Let's do click here. Now, if we are going to do a total of, let's say in this case we're doing 4, or let's say we're doing, I don't know, let's go with 10. So I'll use the 80-20 rule so you guys can see. I think you know where I'm going with this anyway. So traffic management courses might be another good one, although that's kind of similar to what I'm using. Actually, I think I might wrap it up. I think you understand what I'm doing here, right? Remember, we want to use offset links. So we wouldn't just smash all 100% of our links using the variations of the term. I might use click here to a random blog post, or I might use Upskills Queensland pointing to the home page. Right now, really depends. Like it depends on how many links or how much budget you've got allocated and what you can do. So I've got a total here of 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I've got a total of 6, and I've got 2 pointing elsewhere, right? It may not exactly be 80-20, but you get my point, right? All I'm doing here is I would push these, right? These would push to the target page. Now, this is also worth mentioning, and this is what you should be doing. You want to make sure that you point, or publish rather, the page of which you intend to link to, right? So Upskills QLD, that will be, let's point a link to the home page. Okay. And, and click here. Actually, let's change this to meet the team. Let's change that to meet the team, and we'll point it to the about page. Let's do that. Okay, so we've done that. Right, so again, this is just a demonstration. The numbers and everything else I'm showing you may not be exactly 80-20. It's just to give you some guidance as to how you map out your anchors per billing cycle. One thing that you may have noticed that I did here, and I did this intentionally, is I actually left a gap between the existing links and the next links down. And I always did this for each cycle, right? So I found visually it was just easier to look at. So The next billing or the next month the client pays, I would start from here. Sometimes I left 2 spaces. It just makes it easier, at least did for our team and myself included, to be able to look quickly at the anchors we've been using, the pages that we're pointing those links to, and everything else, rather than it all just being jumbled up together. Right, so this is essentially the process in terms of mapping out your anchors and everything else. The next steps from here, of course, would be to, okay, we've got our anchors mapped out. We know which page or pages that we want to link to. We would then go about creating content, and that'll be covered in the next lesson. Actually, just before I move on, I just wanted to take a quick minute to prepare a few more cycles so that you get to see how I might prepare additional months ahead, or how I might prepare further anchors into the following, say, next 2 months. So you worked with me here to see the first cycle that I mapped out, and as you can see, doing a total of 6 links, 2 offset links. I'm using I'm making sure to diversify my anchors. As you can see, I'm using these 4 pointing to the target page. In this case, I'm using traffic controller training course, traffic management course, traffic controller. This one here, I'm using a long tail phrase with a combination of exact phrase or keyword mixed in with brand, which is Upskills Queensland Traffic Controller Certification. Then, of course, I've got Meet the Team pointing to the Meet the Team page, and also brand pointing to the home page. Now, for the other 2 cycles that I mapped out, as you can see here, I've got where they're located. This is just a generic term pointing to where they host their courses by location. So this is, of course, an offset link. Here I'm using a naked URL, so I'm actually linking using the actual URL of the page. The next one down is a traffic control work training, followed by brand, Upskills Queensland. And of course, I referenced all of the guide anchors that we pulled down previously. This one here is, I'm just using brand for this one, again, pointing to the target page. Policies and procedures, again, generic term. This is an offset link pointing to the policies and procedures page. And then the next one down, the traffic certification and licensing. So again, variations of courses or trainings or lessons, certification and licensing, pointing to the target page. The next one down, I've got homepage, just a generic term pointing to the homepage of Upskills. The next 3 I've got here are all variations of exact match. So traffic controller training course, get qualified as a traffic controller, traffic control qualifications. I've got a random one here. This is an offset link. Contact them here, pointing to the contact page. And lastly, I'm once again using a naked URL to point to the target page. So this is essentially what I would do if I was mapping out ahead. And essentially, I would just repeat this process over and over again until the page, until I've actually achieved the objective and the page is ranking for the desired term.